Good day, ma'am. I will be discussing my topic, which is the general biology of Microsporidia and Microsporidia as biological control agents. So, the Microsporidia or the phylum Microspora are the most common and the best studied of the protozoans that cause important diseases of insects. Although it is still referred to as protozoa. And recently, molecular phylogenetic studies have shown that these pathogens evolved from fungi. So, Microsporidia have been the most commonly described from insects of the orders Coleoptera, Lepidoptera, Diptera, and Orthoptera. But they are still they are also known from other orders and probably occur in all. And Microsporidia are microscopic, obligate intracellular parasites that primarily infect invertebrates and vertebrates, including the humans. They also belong to the phylum Microsporidia and are known for their spore-forming capabilities, which aid in transmission and infection. Microsporidia have a complex life cycle with both spores and vegetative stages that involving the extrusion of a polar filament to inject an infectious spores contents into host cells. There are importance of microsporidia, and these are the medical significant, ecological impact, biological control, and agricultural benefits. So, in medical significance, the microsporidia infections can pose health risk and especially to immunocompromised individuals. So, understanding their biology helps in developing effective treatments and preventive measures. Second is the ecological impact. The microsporidia influence the health of various ecosystems by affecting host organisms, including the insects and other animals. Next is the biological control, which certain Microsporidia species are used as biological control agents to manage pest populations that offers or offering an eco-friendly alternative to chemical pesticides. And the last importance is the agricultural benefits. So using Microsporidia in pest management can enhance crop yields and it reduces reliance on harmful chemicals, promoting sustainable agricultural practices. General biology of Microsporidia. So Microsporidia are, as what I said, is microscopic, obligate intracellular parasite that primarily infect the invertebrates and vertebrates, including us humans. So they are characterized by their unique spore formation capabilities, which they aid in transmission and infection processes. So the microsporidia are fascinating yet complex organisms. So these are tiny, obligate intracellular parasites, meaning they must live and they must reproduce within the host cells of their yatay. So microsporidia are fascinating yet complex organisms. So these are tiny obligate intracellular parasites, meaning they must live and they must reproduce within the cells of their hosts. So they are primarily infect a wide range of invertebrates and vertebrates, including us again humans. That yeah. So what makes Microsporidia particularly unique? So they are unique in their spore formation capability. So these spores are their primary means of transmission and infection. So when spores enters a new host, nag-release sila og specialized nga structure called the polar filament, which is ang polar filament act as a harpoon, piercing the host cell and inject. the spore's content. So this process initiates the infection, allowing the microsporidia to replicate inside the host cell. So eventually, producing more spores that are released in infect are released to infect other cells or other new hosts. So this ability to form spores and efficiently transmit infection helps the microsporidia thrive in diverse environments, making them significant in both medical and ecological contexts. And their study is essential for developing treatments for infections they caused, for exploring their potential as biological control agents in agriculture. So, classification of Microsporidia. We have here the phylum, which is Microsporidia. The kingdom they belong is the fungi. They are a fungi. Although historically they were considered protozoans. And the order is still Microsporida without the I in the end. And the families and the genera is have over 200 genera and 1,700 species have been identified, with species such as Nosema, Encephalitozoon, and Enterocytozoon is being well known. So we have here the morphology of the Microsporidia. So microsporidia are characterized by their own unique and structure. So these spore structure have a thick protective spore wall that allows them to survive outside the host for extended periods, even if in the harsh environmental conditions. So inside the spore, there are there is again as what I have mentioned earlier, a specialized structure called the polar filament. So, when the spore encounters a suitable host, the polar filament uncoils and extends rapidly and piercing the host cell membrane and injecting the spore's content into the host cell. Next is the spores are typically oval or round shape, measuring to 1 to 4 micrometers in size. They also contains a polar filament, which is used to inject the spores content into host cells. So in the spores, you have thick protective spores wall and aiding to survival outside the host. And the life cycle of the microsporidia, we have the first stage is the spore stage. So the infectious stage where spores are ingested or inhaled by a host. Next is their germination. The spore extrudes its polar filament, penetrating the host cell. Next is after germination, they infect. So there is infection. So the spore contents are injected into the host cell, initiating infection. And after infection, there is a proliferation. So inside the host cell, the microsporidia multiply or they multiply and produces new spores. Next is the sporulation, which new spores are formed and eventually released from the host cell to infect new cells or new host. So we have the host range and infection mechanism. So let's first start in the host range. In host range, the microsporidia are known to infect a wide range of hosts, including the invertebrates, like insects, crustaceans, and vertebrates like fish, birds, mammals. Yeah, they are particularly prevalent in aquatic environments and are common parasites in fish and insect population. Some species of Microsporidia can also infect humans, especially those with weak immune systems. Next is we have the infection mechanism. So the spore of the Microsporidia ingestion or inhalation. So the host will typically acquire Microsporidia by ingesting or inhaling spores from contaminated food, water, or environment. Then there's spores germination. So once inside, once the Microsporidia is inside the host, the spores germinate and extruding a polar filament that penetrates the whole cells. And after that spore germination, we have the injections of spore contents. So the infectious contents of the spore are injected into the host cell through the polar filament. Next is the extracellular proliferation. The microsporidia replicate within the host or will multiply within the host cell and it will produce new spores. And the lastly is the releasing or and spreading, the release and spread. So there are newly formed spores are released from the host cell and it is ready to infect new cells or new hosts. So the next topic is the microsporidia as a biological control agents. So Microsporidia again is are increasingly recognized for their potential as a biological control agent in pest management. So their ability to infect and regulate populations of various pests makes them valuable in integrated pest management strategies. So by targeting specific pests, the Microsporidia can reduce the need for chemical pesticides and promoting eco-friendly and sustainable agricultural practices. We have here the host specificity, which is many Microsporidia species specifically target the pest organisms without affecting the non-target species, ensuring that minimal ecological there are minimal ecological disruption. Next is the environmental safety, which is the using of microsporidia as a biological control can reduce the reliance on the chemical pesticides and it can lower the risk of environmental contamination and harm. It is harm not harmful to the beneficial organisms. Next is a suitable pest management. So, biological control with Microsporidia supports long-term pest management solutions and reducing the likelihood of pest resistance. We have here the role of Microsporidia in pest management. So, first is the targeted control. The microsporidia are often highly specific to certain pest species, minimizing the impact on the non-target organisms and ensuring the targeted pest suppression. Reduction of chemical pesticides. So by utilizing the microsporidia, the reliance on chemical pesticides is reduced, leading to lower environmental contamination and reduced harm to beneficial insects and other non-target species. The sustainable pest management, which is the use of Microsporidia, supports the long-term pest management strategies. Unlike chemical pesticides, which pests can develop resistant to biological control agents like Microsporidia. This can help maintain pest populations and at manageable levels without inducing resistance. For example, so one prominent example is the Nosema locustae. It is used to control locust and grasshopper populations. So other species of Microsporidia have been explored for managing pests such as mosquitoes, caterpillars, and other agricultural pests. So there are benefits and challenges of using Microsporidia as a biological control agents. So here is the host specificity. Again, the Microsporidia often target a specific pest species, which is they minimize the impact on the non-targeted organisms and beneficial insects. Environmental safety using Microsporidia reduces the need for chemical pesticides, which can lower the risk of environmental contamination and harm to ecosystems. Sustainable pest management, so biological control with Microsporidia supports long-term pest management strategies and help prevent the development of the pesticide resistant in pests, as what the other slides I have shown you. And here we have the cost effective. So once established, once established, Microsporidia can provide ongoing pest control without the recurrent costs associated with chemical treatments. So it is a cost effective kay di naman kinahanglan mo palit o mga pesticides, mga chemicals. So we have this fungi or this organism. Next is the integration with other methods. The microsporidia can be integrated into integrated pest management, also known as IPM program, which enhancing overall effectiveness. We have the challenges of using microsporidia as a biological control agents. So we have the mass production. So producing sufficient quantities of microsporidia for a large scale application is it can be challenging and it requires specialized facilities. The application techniques. So effective delivery methods must be developed to ensure that the microsporidia reach the target pest or the targeted pest population in an efficient manner. And environmental factors, the factors such as temperature, humidity, and host availability can affect the efficacy of the Microsporidia as biological control agents. Regulatory hurdles. So obtaining a regulatory approval for the use of Microsporidia in pest management may involve rigorous testing and compliance with safety standards. And lastly, the host resistance. So some pests may develop resistance to Microsporidia over time, potentially reducing their effectiveness as control agents. So we have reached the end of the discussion. I will read the conclusion. So Microsporidia, they are valuable biological control agents that promotes sustainable agriculture by providing eco-friendly pest management solutions. So these microorganisms reduces the reliance on chemical pesticides that and it leads to lower environmental contamination and less harm to beneficial organisms. By targeting a specific pest species, the Microsporidia support a long-term pest management without inducing resistance, um, without helping maintain no, it can help maintain balanced ecosystems. So they are used in integrated pest management or IPM programs that enhances overall pest control effectiveness, reduces the pesticide residues on crops, and it improves food safety. Additionally, the microsporidia are cost effective and contribute to biodiversity conservation, making them a crucial component in advancing sustainable agricultural practices. So that's all for my discussion on this report. Thank you and